Hello and welcome to the Beef Age, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this episode I'm joined by Ruth Dunne, researcher in Teagasc Johnstown Castle. Since 2013 there have been research trials in dairy calf to beef in Johnstown Castle. I first asked Ruth, what have the trials to date shown?
Yeah, so since 2013, the trials in Johnstown Castle have evolved a lot. They began first with finishing strategies for male Frisian calves, which looked at both bull systems under 16 and 19-month bulls, and also other steer systems, including a 24-month, which is the traditional, an early at 21 month, and a later system at 28 months. After that, then they switched to early maturing heifer and steer systems with Angus and Hereford type animals. And then work was also completed on calves during the first season at grass. And I suppose to sum up from all of those trials, the main thing they showed was that there was a high proportion of weight gain from grass, that these systems were the most profitable systems. And then from that, they developed blueprints of targets and lifetime gain targets for these systems. And also from this work, it showed that excellent grassland management was critical for their success. And obviously also from the net profit analysis that was done on those systems, aside from the selling of the actual beef and the price that you got for the beef on the day, that the systems were also vulnerable to increases in calf price and also increases in the cost of concentrates.
From the identified blueprints, it was found that one of the significant factors affecting these production systems was output per hectare. With this in mind, what are the current research programs in Johnstown Castle?
Yeah, so we switched then to looking at output per hectare, I suppose, as it was the most significant influence on the profitability of the systems. So since 2015, we've been looking at stocking rate intensities. So the farm in Johnstown is split into 3 farmlets, a high system, a low system, and a medium system. And I suppose the farm is divided up so that the different topographies and soil types are represented in each farmlet. And under each of these farmlets, we have 72 calves go in every year. And then the heifers are killed at a 19 to 21 month system, and as they come fit, and the bullocks are killed at 26 to 28 months, going back out for a third season of grass, as Rob had identified those as the most profitable systems for dairy calf to beef. In terms of the stocking rates themselves, our low stocking rate is 2.6 livestock units per hectare, which is still above the average stocking rate for dairy calf to beef in the country. Our medium is at 2.9 and our high is at 3.2 livestock units per hectare. And I suppose just as a sideline alongside our stocking rate trial, we're also looking at a sire evaluation trial in conjunction with ABP, where we're looking at finding ideal bulls that can achieve good calf growth rates and I suppose carcass traits for beef while maintaining the easy calving and short gestation traits for the dairy industry.
And since 2015, what have the main preliminary findings from this trial shown?
Yes, so I suppose with the stocking rate trial, we have seen that the average daily gain during the second season at pasture and for the lifetime of the animals is significantly different, with it being, I suppose, the best for the medium and low and the worst for the high stocking rate animals. There was also an impact on carcass weight, which was obviously lower due to the average daily gain in the higher stocking rate animals. And as we would expect, there was no difference in the conformation and fat scores and days to slaughter across the 3 stocking rates. In terms of, I suppose, a preliminary net profit analysis, the medium stocking rate had the greatest net margin per hectare. However, we still have to do a proper economic analysis of that because the grass data that we've been collecting in terms of the grass grown and the silage harvested has not been fully added into those models. And we just from looking at them briefly, it is looking like the high and the medium stocking rates aren't actually harvesting enough silage to feed the animals within their farmlet. So that would have to be costed in, and obviously the purchasing of extra forage for them during the winter. It's not like it's 40 kilos or anything, but the difference in the carcass weight was enough to offset and increase the net margin. But the difference is in the net margin and the average daily gainer, because especially during a dry year, there's just more grass available to the low and the medium stocking rates, and the highs tend to become tight, which is impacting their overall average daily gain. We saw that especially in 2018 with the drought, and we're seeing it now again with the drought we're experiencing at the minute.
So this year, what is happening on the farm at the moment, Ruth?
Yeah, so this year is a busy year. So I suppose at the minute we have the last of the 26-month bullocks that we're hoping will be fit in the next couple of weeks. We had about 106 of these, I suppose, that went in over the winter. The silage that we had, most of them actually came fit and were killed before they went out. So we have 45 of those left, and the majority of which are Limousin cross. And they're averaging around 630, 635 kilos there at the minute, and they're on 3 kilos a meal. So we're hoping they'll be gone now before the 1st of July. We have 216 yearlings, so as I said, 72 per stocking rate trial. And they're the last of the current animals going through the stocking rate trial. So the heifers will be drafted out of them in August, and we'll start their meal feeding with the aim to have them gone before housing. And they're averaging around 380 kilos there at the minute. And this year we've also reseeded a lot of ground, just over 10 hectares. So there's a new multi-species trial starting next year. And with that in mind, we reseeded 10 hectares or 10.5 hectares, a third of which has gone to a perennial ryegrass sward, a third gone to a perennial ryegrass and legume sward, and a third gone to a perennial ryegrass, legume, and chicory and plantain sward. So that was sown there at the end of April. So we've just actually sprayed it, the perennial ryegrass one and the clover one today, with the aim hopefully to have them grazed now by the end of the month with the calves that we have on in the system at the minute. And I suppose learning how to manage those swards will be a major part of this season. And I suppose in conjunction to that, we bought in 300 calves. Now, not all of them are for trial. Some of them are for the commercial part of the farm. So previously we would have bought in reared calves for the trial, but we're now rearing them ourselves. So that took up a lot of the spring. So yeah, we have about 50 left to wean, and they should be weaned in the next couple of weeks. So
you've had a very busy spring, Ruth. With drought conditions currently, how are you managing?
We're lucky in Johnstown in so much that we have, well, a lot of the farm is quite a heavy soil. So up until the start of last week, we had been managing fairly well. We had about 10 mil of rain in May, and I was very concerned about my reseed, as we'd only got that sown around the 23rd, 24th of April. We were lucky when we got it in that the next day we got a good bit of rain, so that was enough to keep it going until now. And then last week we got over 10 mil. We've had about, I looked at the rain gauge today, and I think for June we've had just over 23 mils, so we haven't done too bad. Now the last couple of weeks things have really started to tighten up on the grass front, especially with the reseed being a little bit behind. I'd hoped to have that in earlier, and I'd also hoped that it would be a little bit further along, that I would have been grazing it a bit sooner. But hopefully now we'll crack on with a bit of growth after last week's rain. I suppose I was looking at some of the silage grounds. We cut silage on the 11th of May, and I was looking at to see if I could graze some of it, and some of it is only just barely there even to graze. So that's how poor grass has been growing over the last month, so but as I said, we're not like some other farms that have completely burnt, so we're not too bad.
Yes, obviously the different stocking rates are showing a big difference now at the moment then.
Yeah, so as I said, it's in these conditions that you can really see the difference in the stocking rates, and I suppose that's when we'll really see the significant differences in the results that come out at the end. So we've actually had to go into one of the second cut silage plots there over the weekend just to get me over the little bit of a hump. Even though the cover was really only around 1350, it wasn't that strong. The low stocking rate in these kind of situations is also a bit of a challenge. We would generally cut quite a lot of surplus grass off the low stocking rate because we would spread the same amount of nitrogen across the farm as part of the trial. And then when drought strikes, you're afraid to cut out too much, so you're grazing much heavier covers which aren't great quality. So really there's cattle gone into paddocks there now of about 3,000 kilos of dry matter per hectare, and they should have been cut, but I can see a hole coming in my wedge down the line, and I'm afraid to cut them out. So strip grazing them as tight as I can and hoping to get as good utilization as I can. I went out with Protector Urea KN last week, 65 kilos per hectare just before the rain, and slurry on some of the paddocks, so hopefully that'll kick on things a bit. But we don't like to supplement if we don't have to, because obviously that affects the results of the overall trial. But if we have to go in, we'll be factoring that into the model, obviously. But hoping now to get by with, if I have to take out another silage paddock, I will, but hoping not to have to increase the supplements to the steers, and hoping not to have to supplement silage.
Farmers can expect to see more because you're featuring in the Dairy Calf to Beef Day as part of the Teagasc Virtual Beef Week on the 7th of July. What can farmers expect to learn and see on the day?
Yeah, so I'm featured obviously in the Dairy Beef Day, which is the Tuesday. So I think there is a bit for everybody there. I know Donal and Nikki will be discussing the trial in Teagasc Grange with Bernie Early, talking about major herd health challenges, which is obviously one of the biggest problems with dairy calf to beef systems, especially during the calf rearing stage. Myself, I'll be talking about the trials in Johnstown Castle and how to optimize your stocking density on your farm. There'll also be Sean and James will be talking about the latest phase of the Green Acres programme and the lessons they've learned so far from that phase. And I believe there'll also be a panel discussion with Siobhan Ring from ICBF, and also a veterinary herd health research officer, Niamh, will be talking about calf performance and also the management and prevention of infectious diseases in calves. So I think there's something in there for everybody, and I'm really looking forward to the day myself.
I'm sure farmers are looking forward to seeing it also on the 7th of July. Thanks, Ruth, for joining me on the show.
Thank you.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Ruth for joining me on the show. Teagasc will host a virtual beef week from Monday the 6th to Friday the 10th of July. For further details, keep an eye on the Teagasc website, Facebook and Twitter pages. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Veg podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan, and thanks for listening.